Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we were reviewing The Island that was released in 2005.
Yeah, it's a science fiction action thriller film.
It's an awesome one.
It's not bad,
Quite cool.
It's got a few problems with it, but we'll talk about later on.
Yeah, we'll get to those very shortly.
Yes. Now, okay, here we go. Let's get into it. Produced by Michael Bay, Ian Bryce, and Walter Parks. Directed by Michael Bay. Screenplay by Alex Kurtzman, Robert Orkey, and Caspian Treadwell Owen. That's a lot. That's a mouthful, isn't it? It's almost a book in itself. Story by Caspian Treadwell Owen. Now, I won't go too much into anything because Sarah was going to do that.
Yeah,
however,
quite right.
Moving right along, budget, 126 million.
Ooh.
Now, reason being, obviously, the sets and special effects and everything, they're really, really good. Okay,
Quite right.
That's a definite plus, but I think it probably went into a bit of cost overrun. I don't know what they actually really budgeted for, but it came out about 126 million.
Luckily, Michael Bay, whoever his name is, put his own money up for it.
Well, he may have. The point is that it's still box office at 163 million. It still made a profit.
Yep.
But when you put 126 million into a movie and you're really, really hoping to turn a profit, there's some better movies than this who have not made a profit.
That's true.
And didn't spend quite as much money. So he's quite lucky to have come out on top. So
even though much later on he got into big trouble with, but won't go into it.
We'll talk about the lawsuit later on. Okay. I said that.
Yeah. So
he
kind of went through a bit of a pitfall there.
Well, a big pit. You have to pay out a pre-court settlement to someone or other, but we'll talk about it later.
Yes.
Okay.
So, who stars in this thing? Okay,
here we go. Cast
of thousands.
There's not a huge cast listed in here because it's mainly centered around a handful of people. Now, here we go. Ewan McGregor does a double role. He plays Tom Lincoln, who's a human being living in the real world, and Lincoln 6 Echo, which is a clone living in a special facility, has it? Now, Scarlett Johansson, she's doing the same thing. She's doing a double role. She plays Sarah Jordan, who is somebody living in the outside world, and she also plays Jordan 2 Delta. I love these names they make up for the science files, hey?
Yeah, I think it is interesting, especially how the clones, they're named, they're using surnames.
Well, they use the surname of the person plus a code number. That's probably a batch number or something. Whatever. Now, here we go. Now, a few other people. Now, Jimon Honshu, George Jimon, plays Albert Laurent. He's a mercenary hired by the clone facility's CEO to chase Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, after they escape. Okay, we'll talk about it later. Now, the boss of the facility is Sean Bean. He plays Dr. Merrick.
Yeah, before this movie, I always had this very big crush on him.
He's a good-looking man.
Yeah.
He'd be good to sound like Lord of the Rings or something, wouldn't he?
He was in Lord of the Rings and a lot of other...
Wasn't he in that other thing? The thing I watched. That series.
You think Game of Thrones?
He wasn't in that?
I think he was.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, here we go. Now, a couple of other people who had interesting parts. Michael Clark Duncan, he played one of the clones there. And he was not on screen for an awful long time, but he had a very powerful impact on the movie.
Yeah, was he the one that...
The dark fellow who was dragged away to get chopped up.
Oh.
Oh, no, his face? That guy, yeah. Steve Buscemi, I never know how to say his name. Buscemi, plays James McLeod. He's sort of a McCord, he plays something like a technician. There's two other people there. I won't mention who they are. Kim Coates and Ethan Phillips. Anyway, I won't say too much more. Sarah's going to obviously do that and give you your bedtime story. And,
might as well.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Drum roll. Take it away.
Okay, so the story begins where Lincoln, our clone, and the protagonist we follow throughout this movie is having horrible nightmares of going to this island resort of sorts, seeing. Just so you guys know,
resort of sorts.
Yeah. See, this island is to the inhabitants. They believe that's the last remaining source of
Let's
humankind.
take it back. These people, these clones, are led to believe that the outside world has been decimated by wars and viruses and lots of horrible nasties out there.
An outbreak or whatever.
And they are the remaining survivors that they found and brought to the facility.
Yeah.
Now, once they get all nice and clean and healthy, supposedly, then the ones who are better go for, not better, physically well and developed, are put in a lottery, supposedly, to go to a place called the Island, which is supposed to be like a very safe, nice environment where they can live a normal life.
Yes.
But in reality...
Let's get to that later.
We'll get into that later.
So anyway, Lincoln has this horrible nightmare, and he wakes, and he's told by these computers. There's a lot of computers in this movie, and that he's that he's been having sleep deprivation, and his sodium levels are a little on the high side. When actually
that doesn't really matter.
It's not really important, but anyway,
my sodium levels are probably up too. I eat a lot of junk food.
And of course he's the first one who starts questioning his environment. Unlike the others who think, "Oh, we're here, we're safe, we're
happy, joy,
that kind of thing." So anyway, he heads down to the kitchen, to the cafeteria. He's told off he can't have bacon for gosh knows reasons.
Because his sodium levels up. They're salty.
But luckily enough, his friend Jordan, she's cute and beautiful.
She's always cute.
Yeah. She finally butters up the old lady and got some bacon for him.
That's a game to him. What's a girlfriend for, hey?
Yeah, well, actually, in this movie, they're friends, and according to their community, they're not supposed to be close.
Not supposed to get up close and personal. If you get my drift.
Yeah, no hormone stuff. They control...
no hormone stuff.
Yeah,
that's good.
They
no testosterone and galloping hormones.
They practically run everything. Like whatever happens, like if they control your food, they control your exercise regimen. They control everything about you. If something's off, they'll probably report it. Whatever.
Yes.
And or whatever. And they don't want any connections, like love interest connections, because
it gets messy.
Yeah, and the one thing they do in this facility is to eliminate the sex part.
Well, yeah, if a female clone got pregnant, she might be earmarked for something else, and if she died during pregnancy, they couldn't. She couldn't fulfill her requirements of her position there.
Don't get me wrong, guys. There are a few pregnant women in this production where they're mostly there to repopulate the.
No, they're not. They're surrogates.
They're
repopulate anybody.
No, they're made to believe that they're there to
help out.
To help out.
But that's another lie.
Yes. Anyway, so while they're Logan. I mean, not Logan. I don't know why.
Logan's friends in here. No.
Sorry, guys.
Lincoln.
He heads to the head doctor in charge of the facility, who tells him why he's having asks him about all these weird dreams and why he's all that stuff, and says that Lincoln is troubled by the atmosphere and stuff. And Lincoln asks all these random questions like, why can't I have bacon? Why am I always wearing white? And why do I have to have this black streak, on my clothing while everyone else has a little bit of color in their lives and all that stuff? And
You're special.
And why is every Monday tofu day? What is tofu?
And what is tofu? And I keep asking myself the same question. What is tofu? Why do we eat it?
Yeah, and anyway, he then draws the boat from his dream. See, he has these nightmares, and they are a mixture of
dreams and nightmares,
mixtures of memories, and I guess maybe some ones he experienced firsthand when he was born in the facility.
Possibly
3 years ago, which is a bit confusing to him. So, anyway, eventually the doctor suggested we'll put these little small bead-sized robot creatures into your eye so they can check out your brain.
And they'll walk through your body and stuff and check everything out and make sure there's nothing majorly going wrong.
And, of course, they'll come out through his urine at the end, which is
talk about
painful.
passing kidney stones and stuff. These things about the size of a ladybird.
They're the size of a ladybird or a small pearl. Or something.
No, ladybird. It's just a small pearl's a lot bigger.
Anyway, eventually, So Lincoln heads off to work, which, unknown to the others, don't realize they're breeding more of those clones and unaware of it, because I think they're just doing it to provide food for their community, which is a bit off.
Whatever.
Anyway, he then decides to head off down to the maintenance shed somewhere.
Well, there's an area they do electrical maintenance and different things, and he knows a guy down there who's
Mac.
who's one of the people who isn't a clone.
Yeah.
He's actually helping to run the facility from a technician perspective.
He's a maintenance man of sorts, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they sit around talking and drinking a little bit from his flask of sorts.
Must have a bit of alcohol in there.
Yeah, and where Lincoln learns a little bit about life outside, a little bit about Mac, and a bit about a bit about God and stuff. Well, not really about God. He says, the guy upstairs who know how you want to sit down and wish for something. That's the guy that ignores you, even though I disagree on that one.
Yeah,
I often
getting into a theology study at the moment.
No. So anyway, Lincoln discovers a bug, a little moth of sort, and he takes it back to his room, and he keeps it confined. So when he make him wonder, how can a bug survive?
It was so bad out there.
Yeah. It couldn't have not survived. Just be a coincidence, is what he's thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, while this is all happening, we see the birth of one of their clone creatures, and of course, it's disgusting. It's just like the way if you were looking at an adult being born.
Yeah.
There's
They have a big plastic bag with all the gooey stuff in it, and all these little tubes running in it, and they'd rip it open for knives and stuff. They go gooey, and make it breathe like you would a little baby.
A little bit like there's even a special, hose, just like umbilical cord that you get all these nutrients from, and it's it's very similar. Isn't that right, Mike?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eventually, they call it a product and then label it. They tag it, with a tattoo on its wrist, and give it a bracelet, which is very important.
Very
much
nice.
later.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a bit like microchipping. You got all your details on it to say who you are when you're born, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, something like that. And this bracelet sort of is like a identity cut,
Probably,
thing. So the employees know who they're serving or who they're working for.
Yes, exactly right.
Or who they're talking to. Anyway, later that night, Lincoln is playing an Xbox video game, 3D-dimensional game, whatever. And
not bad, eh? Really good.
He then tells Jordan that tells her, "Are you feeling well? all that stuff. And she says she's fine because he saw the file that the head doctor had on his screen, a special table computer thing.
Yeah, it looks really nifty.
Yeah, and it's had some diagnosis that explained something wrong about Sarah Jordan. Something.
No, her name was up there.
Yeah.
And she saw her name, because her sponsor was needing some spare parts.
Because she went into a car crash and needs them.
Yes, it's broken.
Yeah. Soon enough, the lottery begins, and guess who is picked from the litter?
Jordan. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Of course, Jordan is all excited, but Lincoln is a little sad because he's losing one of his best
and he's
friends.
starting to think that's not all it should be.
Yeah, he starts wishing he got to know her a little bit better, and she, I guess, feels just vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, later that night he has another nightmare, and he then takes the opportunity to go and takes them off with him to find out where it came from. So he heads to the illegal area and he lets it loose, and it heads up towards a ladder, and he then follows it, and eventually he comes to
a higher level of the facility, which is where all the scientist guys are and stuff, and the administration officers.
Yeah, he then opens it, and he finds. And we're in a hallway. He then finds a disguise to make sure that no one recognizes him.
Puts the doctor's coat on.
Yeah. He then goes into one of the other doctor's areas where he finds one of the clones giving birth to a baby. And it's all good, and this is a chance that Lincoln gets to see an actual baby being born, because he never seen it firsthand, has he?
Nope.
And then he also experiences death in the scene because they give her a lethal injection, killing her.
The lady, not the baby.
Killing the baby, killing the lady.
Yeah.
The baby is given to her sponsor, and
he was there to have a baby for the sponsor.
Yeah.
And once he had the baby, they disposed of the body.
Yeah.
By just giving a lethal injection and 99.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while this is happening, another clone is getting ready to get his liver being removed and other parts too.
Yep.
And he wakes up and he runs down the hallway begging for them to not kill him, and of course he gets tackled by these guys with their guns, their tasers.
This is Michael Clark Duncan, really very powerful performance of him. Yeah.
And he gets pulled back, and Lincoln watches him cry out, "You promised that you would take me to the island." Oh, it was so sad, and it makes me feel cringy
you realise
and sad.
he's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, eventually Lincoln is approached by one of the orderly guys, and he says, "It's okay, this happens all the time." Uh-oh. And then we realise this is going to be the fate of Jordan next.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he runs down the hallway, goes down the
manhole thing, the hatchway,
the hatch, and just heads back down to the facility where all the clones are. And he heads and finds Jordan and tells her that what's happened. They're planning to kill her.
Yep.
And take her body parts.
This made a good story, wouldn't it? Oh, sorry.
Anyway, they rush out for the facility. Everyone is scared because they found out through the TV influences that Lincoln is exposed and all that stuff, and so it made it difficult for Lincoln and Jordan to hide, through the crowd.
Exposed? You mean they know who he looks like, what he looks like?
Meaning expose him for being
a runaway.
A runaway, and not just a runaway. He's contaminated.
He's contaminated.
Yeah, that's it.
But what's his other word saying? We want to get rid of him.
Yeah, so they head out and they eventually meet up with a couple of soldiers and eventually knock them out, and they end up getting out of the facility.
The real world.
Yeah, and it's not an island. It turns out it's actually a very big landscape.
Yeah, it's a desert somewhere. Yeah.
Somewhere probably in Texas or gosh knows where.
It's not in Texas.
Okay, maybe not Texas.
Just say it's out in I can't say out of sticks. There's no trees around. It's just a desert.
Yeah.
Where it's an old army bunker they've used.
Yeah.
And they've
the island itself is actually a huge hologram that's all over the area where the clones live. They're leaving them to think that the island is outside where they live.
Yeah, not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they've been lied to all their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
So Lincoln and Jordan, they head down the road, and they stop for the night. And Jordan is thinking that there's no way that we're contaminated, that everything's dead, but they discover a creature that is still alive. It's
rattlesnake.
It's a rattlesnake, and it nearly stings Lincoln.
Well, don't sting, they bite. Don't sting.
Okay, bites.
Bees sting.
And this is where the head doctor guy, he hires Albert. Yeah, is it?
It's Albert Laurent.
Yeah, and tells them about what's the situation.
Yeah, he's an group of ex-army SEALs and other
ex-army
good group.
SEAls, mercenaries or whatever they call them.
He's he's mercenary now.
Yeah.
And he hires himself out to do little odd jobs.
Yeah.
In this case, to find some runaways.
Yeah. Anyway, he's told the situation that Jordan needs to be getting back because she's in need of all her limbs all her organs have to be given to her sponsor, who just happened to be in a car crash, as I mentioned, and is in need of them. While this is happening, the doctor goes on to explain that they monitored everything about the clones. They monitor their TV and their exposure to certain events that they should be exposed to, like have a fear of keeping them fearful of going outside.
They controlled everything. No outside news, no newspapers, no internet, and no Facebook, no TikTok.
Yeah, technically, they reached the age of 15. The minds, anyway.
The minds were progressed up to the age of 15-year-old over a 3 or 4 year period. Yeah.
Even though 15-year-olds still think of sex. When you think about it.
Well, I'm 68 and I'm still thinking of sex.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's there.
I don't do it as much anymore, but...
Yeah, if it's still there when you think about it. Anyway, eventually Lincoln sees a motorcycle, and then we see the road sign that indicates where he could find his friend, who, Mac.
Yeah, he had an empty box of matches he had them off in.
Yeah.
Had an address of a motel or something on it.
Yeah.
And he found, there it is.
Yeah.
He followed it. He's very good.
Yeah, so they run, and who knows how long. I don't know much about roads, how long. And eventually they arrive there, and of course, after a bit of, a little bit of language barrier problems when you think about it.
Yeah, they don't speak local, they speak... I said, so how do you... They speak perfect English with no slang. They take everything neutral. So when you come out to the real world, people... talking in slang and other idiosyncrasies, they don't know what they're talking about. So very awkward.
He then meets Mac in the can.
He said, what's Mac doing in the can?
We're taking a dump.
He's having a dump in a can? Yeah, they see, it's just, when you look at it, if somebody doesn't know what that means, it doesn't make sense, does it?
As I said, kid level, whatever.
Or worse, the kid level, they take it literally. You're dumping what into a can? Very complicated.
Yeah, Mac explains the situation, tells them that they're not real people. He
takes them home to his place.
And he tells, which makes me wonder, Mike brought up something the other day that was interesting to me, that whether or not clones of people would have souls.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting concept. I'm not going to get into a theology discussion, but when you think about it, if you had a human being like me right now, and I gave someone some cells of mine to clone, would that mean my soul's in two bodies?
That is interesting.
Or would that clone get a new soul?
Yeah.
Don't know.
It's the same with robots. If they existed today, would they somehow develop a soul?
Well, they're mechanical.
True.
But think about it. It does conjure up, lots of
unanswered questions.
Unanswered questions again. What the hell? And that's why it's really weird. I understand using it for endangered species, repopulating those. Like koala bears are having a bit of trouble here in Australia at the moment. As other endangered species, by all means clone the animals which are being hunted, or humanity is killing them off just by development.
Back to the story, as I said. So Lincoln finds out that there are clones, even though Jordan is skeptical and thinks, I have a mother, I have memories of her, all that stuff. But Mac explains that all those were just...
He told what her memories were. So how do you know that? Everyone's got the same memories, pretty much.
See, they have 12 different stories. They switch it
And
around.
they jiggle a few things around. They're still basically the same things.
They're practically just a mixture of images.
You had
and
little
stuff.
bicycles, little pink ribbons on it, and you had so-and-so, and you had a pussycat, and you had so-and-so, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it's all the same. It's a little bit like in Blade Runner, because the replicants were given memories and photographs.
They were photographs and memories.
And they had fake histories.
True. Anyway, soon enough, he decides to help them. At first, he doesn't want to help them because he thinks if they go find their sponsors are not going to give a rat, to be honest, because they're a wealthy class people.
And they're paying for the facility to have the spare parts.
Yeah.
But Mac actually came up with something. He said a comment says, when they're talking about their sponsors, and he said, look, people eat a hamburger, but they don't want to meet the cow.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, although eventually it's persuaded and he helps them get some proper clothes eventually to make them blend in better.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, anyway, at least Lincoln is allowed to wear something better than what he's been wearing.
His white jumpsuit. Very nice.
Yes. Anyway, he then gives them Mac gives them his credit card
and some
cash so that they won't starve or get find a place to live.
But he also said, "I have to report the card stolen in about a day or so's time. So these people, blah blah, stole it from me and stuff. So to stop him getting
into trouble.
In trouble, yeah.
Yeah, and when he gave them to Jordan, he remarks, "There is one universal fact you should remember in this world.
Never give the credit card to a female."
Yeah, so Lincoln puts them into his wallet, and we forget about him. Or not his wallet, he's just into his pocket. Anyway, while Mac is getting them tickets and a map or two,
map of LA, I think.
Lincoln,
they're going to Los Angeles.
They're going to New York.
Los Angeles.
Actually, it was New York first.
You sure?
I'm positive, because that's where Sarah Jordan lives, and Lincoln's one is in Los Angeles, I think. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, moving on. So he gets some tickets for for them, and this is where Jordan notices a bunch of kids, about 6-year-olds. There's the first time they never seen actual kids, because at the facility there's no children there. If you haven't noticed, they never questioned it. That's pretty much would explain a lot, because there's no children there. There's always young adults, maybe a few older people, like elderly people. And that explains a lot, because most of the elderly people who are wealthy would probably wanting to live forever. When you think about it, who are wealthy and rich and can afford it. Anyway, eventually the mercenaries arrive, and they come in disguise, and this is where our first action scenes start.
Bam, bam, thank you, bam.
Yeah, eventually Mac gets killed in the gunfire, and Jordan and Lincoln get away on the fast express train of sorts.
Yeah, magnetic train. Yeah, when it flies above the ground. Yeah. Really nice. One of those. Yeah.
So they head off to New York or whatever.
LA
or New York.
I've got it in my notes here.
Anyway, they soon arrive there, and as they're searching for a sort of information, what was it?
It had an information station, like you go up there and you put some information in. And you're looking for a shop or a human being or something. You just go on a keypad, and it comes up saying this person lives at so and so, unless they're unlisted.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and they couldn't find her, wasn't it?
Yeah, as it turns out, they could find her, but unfortunately she was in the hospital, and her and her younger child was answering the phone, and this is the cute part where the little kid on the phone says, "Mommy, is that you?" Yeah,
because it looks just like Mummy. It's funny, though. Hey, yeah.
Eventually, thanks to the credit card, not the mercenaries, but the real police arrive and arrest them for theft and murder.
And possible murder. They believe they actually murdered Mac, because they were in the same place when he was killed. And obviously the mercenary guys of trying to blame them for the murder.
Well, actually, they're trying to.
Well, someone's told them who they are.
Well, actually, when they heard the credit card being used, they wanted to move in quickly, but the police moved in faster.
Yeah.
Somehow, the police were in the facility and were going to get them first. So they technically. Both, I don't think the mercenaries.
I know they were there at the same time.
I don't think the mercenaries were pinning the blame. They didn't want that because that would mean
that's true. Probably.
That would mean Jordan would go to jail and the real Sarah Jordan would die. They technically they'll be.
That's true too.
It wouldn't be so good for them.
I stand corrected.
And they won't be paid.
Okay, right. Moving right along.
So anyway, they then organize a truck and ram it into one of the police cars while Jordan and Lincoln were still inside it.
Yeah.
And luckily no one got hurt. Well,
the policeman did.
Probably did. They did.
They got trashed, yeah.
But luckily Lincoln and Jordan were able to get out.
Yeah.
And this is where we get the whole interesting chase scene again, where it has a lot of jumping from vehicle to vehicle. I love when they jumped onto a speeder bike. That was my favorite scene.
Yeah, you know, that was not a speeder bike. It was a motorbike.
Okay.
But it was a bit like the ones in Star Wars. Which
Well, that's what I mean. It was a speeder bike.
They didn't call them speeder
Yeah,
bikes.
they did.
Did they?
They did. That's where I got the name from.
Where?
From Star Wars. They called it a speeder bike.
Yeah, I'm talking about in this movie. They stop dragging.
And they don't anyway. They don't have a name for them anyway.
It's like one of those bikes, a speeder, not a speeder bike, a speeder, very similar. Floats, doesn't have many wheels, so the police use those. Yeah.
Anyway, they eventually
have ordinary motorbikes as well.
Would you calm down, you fool?
You know, stop picking on me all the time.
Anyway, they soon arrive on top of a building logo, and the bad guys were trying to get at them using the rifles and stuff and other artificial guns. Eventually, they get away, and later on, we get back to the facility. One of their members of the group tells the doctor, guess what? Lincoln was able to find a bug, and he thinks that this is why he thought that Lincoln thought he could leave, and the doctor heard this and think, this guy knows too much. Must kill him off.
Wait, kill him.
Which he did.
Yeah. Oh, that's really hiding the evidence.
Oh, yes, because he was probably going to talk, maybe.
Oh, it's old. I wouldn't tell anybody. No, not me. I'm a good fellow. I'm loyal. Yeah, that's good. Kill him.
Yeah, well, you never know. Anyway, back to the story. While they're waiting out the rain, there's rain in this, and Lincoln found out where his sponsor is living, and they said, as they're sitting there in the night, Jordan is meditating over the little kid that she saw on the computer earlier about how he looks like her and how the mother was going to die soon, and and Lincoln just remarks, I don't know, and Jordan notices that he's lying because he smiles when he's lying. Not smiles when he's lying. Just a certain type of smile that means that he's lying through his teeth.
So it's a sad smile. It's a happy smile. That makes sense?
Yeah, I guess so. And this is very important and relevant in this story because she knows when he's lying, when he's fake smiling, if you will. Yeah.
He used to be a crocodile.
Anyway, they soon arrive at his sponsor's house. It's an interesting,
very nice house, very contemporary, very nice.
Yeah, and it had some interesting technology like eye scan, like sort of like a key.
Well, yeah, and he had the same eye, so he was allowed. He could open the door, couldn't he?
Yeah,
well,
he enters,
there you go,
and we see a lot of photos of his sponsor. And some photos of motorcycles and other stuff, and the boat that he dreamt in his dream.
Yeah, so you see, he's remembering these things.
And this interesting Latin word called renovatio.
Oh, yeah, something like that. It's Latin.
Yeah, it sort of means rebirth, which is relevant to the story.
Yeah. Somewhat.
Yeah. Anyway, eventually his sponsor attacks them. I've not knowing.
Well, he thought they were just ordinary common criminals breaking in.
Yeah. Eventually, Lincoln approaches him, tells him, "Guess what? I'm Lincoln 2,
Whatever.
or whatever."
2468. Yeah,
And
whatever. Yeah.
he says, "I'm your
Clone.
clone."
I think I'm a clone now.
Very funny.
Sorry.
Or his insurance policy. That's it.
Oh yeah, insurance. That's what
Considering that's what
I'm
they are.
your insurance policy. Yeah.
Yeah. He soon gets their bracelets off, off their wrists, I guess. And they kind of talk a bit, like how similar they look, and how Lincoln can copy exactly,
How Tom was speaking.
Tom's speaking, because Tom came from Scotland and has a love for bicycles and anything that was fast and furious.
Yeah, Lincoln had a natural ability when it when it came to writing these things. He's getting it from his residual memories.
Yeah, interesting thing is that Hugh McGregor, he also has a fascination for motorcycles and stuff. So they kind of add that part to his character, which makes him... I don't know if that's... I mean, a lot of guys seem to be interested in motorcycles and cars and stuff. Ask my nephew, he's actually...
Fast cars and faster women, hey guys.
Considering my nephew is into cars at this very moment, at a young age.
He's 5. I mean, anything of wheels, he's a happy boy.
I think that's probably where most boys get started into that sort of thing when you think about it. A fascination for cars at that age. And then it goes on from there when you think about it.
You're going to become a petrol head. Yeah.
Yes, something. So, anyway, back to the story. And anyway, then Lincoln suggests that maybe they should go on television to announce to the world of what these guys are trying to do. Doing the organ thing and
that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it?
Of course, when he leaves the room to get his shoes, according to Tom, he then contacts the facility, telling them, "Why is my insurance policy sitting on my damn couch?" And this is where we don't know what the conversation between the two of them, but eventually, I guess he was going to plan on taking Lincoln back by force back to the facility.
Exactly.
Eventually, Jordan sees through his smiling act and says that to Lincoln, "I don't trust him. He smiles just like you when you're lying."
Yeah, she's a smart girl, this Jordan.
Despite they've never met, they somehow develop each other's traits.
Well, yeah, you get his memories. Some in this generation of clone, that some of the memories have been coming over. So
Anyway, Lincoln suggests he'll drive, considering he doesn't trust Tom either. So he's able to drive really well, except he doesn't know anything about the road
rules. Yeah. What's the red light do?
Eventually, the mercenaries arrive, and Tom pulls out a gun, which he took from the house, and says, "I'm not ready to die." And of course, Lincoln says, "Me neither." And they drive in a very awkward way.
Going through traffic very fast. Normal chase scene.
And all the time, Tom is more worried about his car than his...
Don't break my car. It's $500,000. Whatever.
And eventually, the car gets damaged, and the two men start fighting. And neither one of the mercenaries could tell which one is which.
They look exactly alike.
Considering that Lincoln is now wearing identical clothing to his Tom.
Tom, yeah. So okay.
And Tom's glasses flew off, and meaning that you can't identify one from the other.
Yeah, bugger.
Yeah. Eventually, Lincoln copies his speech, his accent.
Exactly, his accent, everything.
Yeah.
And they're both saying, the same words, same sort of thing. And
confusing the Albert so much.
Which one am I going to shoot?
Eventually, Lincoln takes his bracelet and then clips it onto Tom's wrist.
He said, "See, it's him." And he got a bracelet on. Shoot him. He shot the sponsor, didn't he?
Yeah, and Lincoln looks away and I think he feels a little bit bad for killing Tom. I know he was a bad guy, but killing someone is not really a good thing when you think about it.
It was a case of kill or be killed, but he'd never killed anybody before, so it would have been a bit of a shock to him, has it?
Albert and Lincoln, they walk a bit, and Albert asked him, "Where's the woman?" And he says, she's gone to find our state to find her sponsor, whatever. And he asks him about how do you feel about this whole cloning thing, and all that stuff. And he says that they made clones that can think, feel, and all that stuff. And he says that the most important thing is that he wants to live and all that stuff, and he doesn't know, and he doesn't care how. I think. Yeah. Anyway, I think that they somehow. I think that Albert is starting to start wondering about the clones, and starting to think that there's more to this than meets the eye.
Yeah, exactly right.
Anyway, Lincoln returns to Tom's house, and where he confronts Jordan, who found out about the gun that Tom took, and she took out another gun and thinks that Lincoln is Tom. But
she figures it out pretty quick.
Yeah, and then Lincoln and Jordan, they,
do it for the first time.
Yeah.
Now we'll pause there. Now, see, this is relevant because these guys might be 30-odd years old, but they've got the mentalities of 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
And this is their first time. They'd been very attracted to each other.
Yeah,
and
there's no sex classes in
No, they were kept apart. And this was a very touching thing. It wasn't just raunchy sex. It was very nice and passionate and tender sex. Yeah. For a few moments, a little bit, to cement their feelings, I suppose. Yeah. Which is really good. Yeah.
Which one thing that bothers me, I know that even I do wonder if the first man in this world back years ago ever wondered how he would know exactly where to put it, or how the woman should know how to respond to where to put it. It's a big question that rambles in my mind. If you were, say you're a fully grown adult and it's been 3 years you've been born for, and you have no knowledge of sex, how would you know where to put it?
Well, how would I put it in ways without getting too gross here? You would see puppy dogs and pussycats and horses and moo cows and lions, tigers, bears, all doing it at some stage or other.
Yeah, but they haven't seen it.
No, but it's residual memories, has it?
Yes. I suppose that maybe...
Part A goes into Part B.
But then again, I should remember that Lincoln's sponsor, he was a
womanizer.
A womanizer and that's one of the reasons why he had to have his insurance policy thing to provide him
he was a party animal,
life.
Too much sex, drugs, and rock and roll. His liver was on its way out. He needed the new liver.
Yeah. Take your pick.
And a shovel. There you go.
Anyway, so they did it, and meanwhile, the head doctor back at the facility goes, he's having sex. He's starting to realize that all the Lincoln's generations are maybe affected severely.
With the same mental problems.
Yeah. So his solution is to eliminate all those ones
and regrow them.
And regrow them from scratch. Which is going to be bad because that means killing, say, so many of them.
They might be needed.
So he comes up with this awesome idea of having multiple lotteries.
A big lottery.
So it's more than just one person.
So, a dozen of them?
Yeah, a dozen, handful.
10, 12 people, yeah.
Including Jonesy, the guy, who's one of Lincoln's friends.
He was a bit of a nutcase, but I think he's an autistic guy. He's really weird with numbers. He's jittery and stuff, and I think he's supposed to be a bit weird. So.
Anyway, Lincoln is called in, but on the phone, Tom's phone, and told that we need you to come in so we can get a good,
get a new sample so we can grow your new your new clone.
I don't know if a clone could ever do another clone. I don't even know how that would work. That works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just cells. It's just DNA.
Yeah.
But what was that movie with Michael Keaton? Was it Duplicity or something or other, or Multiplicity? Where he sort of made a clone of himself, and to do some work, so he'd have to do his chores and stuff around his family so he can do his business. And then the clone got a clone of himself, and the mental facilities were getting worse and worse and worse as
I never seen that movie, so I
think
can't
it
really
was
say.
multiplicity or duplicity or something or other.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That was a funny movie.
So anyway, back to the story. Now that Lincoln knows what they got up their sleeve, they're going to kill off all those generation of clones, and he then comes up with, before he comes up with his plan, he makes plans with Jordan that ahead of time, that he's been looking through a lot of detail, some guides and boating guides and maps, and he's working out that there's the same boat that he, from his dreams, he plans on taking that boat and Jordan to probably out
and find a little island haven somewhere.
Yeah.
So they can live out their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, another point too.
So they can disappear.
If he could take over Tom's life,
yes,
he could take over Tom's money too.
That is true, Mike.
Considering that bucket load, Tom was a millionaire.
Yeah. Considering that Tom is a good artist and he draws a lot of his, he's a bit of a he designs boats.
He
and
designs
stuff like that. And dear old Lincoln, his drawing ability is just quite good.
Yeah.
Maybe not good now, but maybe in, say, a couple of years, it could be it could have been close to his level eventually.
Yeah. Same imagination.
Anyway, back to the story. Lincoln makes other plans of trying to save the remaining clones from being slaughtered. So he dresses like Tom Lincoln, while Jordan goes and gets caught by the
Well, he
bad
sets
guy.
himself up to get caught and taken back.
Yeah. Of course, Albert is beginning to have second thoughts about taking her back. And this is where when he hears from the doctor, who explains to him that there's no use for her use anymore because Sarah Jordan is long dead.
She died.
Yeah, or not dead. By the time they'll remove all the organs from Jordan, they won't have enough time to put them in to the original sponsor.
So what are you going to do? He's going to terminate her. She's a non-human.
Yeah, anyway.
And this guy Albert didn't like because he was being Afro-American and he had a bit of a family history of being treated pretty much the same way. He didn't like this.
His father belonged to a sort of revolutionary group, and I guess his dad got killed, and the people of the enemy group branded him and his brothers with a brand that says to the world, "You're not human," or not, or
you're less than human.
Less than human. Yeah. And Albert has a bit of the connection to the clones.
He had a moral dilemma. How's that?
Yeah, of course. The doctor says that these clones don't think or feel. He goes on a rant about how these clones don't think and feel, but they do think and feel. They feel pain, they feel remorse, they feel sadness.
Exactly, all those
groovy things. Who's to say what they don't feel is beyond me.
Yeah, the doctor doesn't feel much. He's a bit of a cold.
He's a cold jerk.
Meanie.
Anyway, Lincoln arrives there pretending to be Tom and in dress. And
he's wearing a dress?
In like...
dressed like Tom, yeah. I didn't think he was wearing a dress.
Yeah. And he knocks out the horrible assistant guy. Oh, thank goodness. He was such a jerk.
Yeah.
Anyway, he then decides to go to the hologram room in order to shut the whole thing down.
So everyone, all the clones can see what the real world out through the windows really looks like.
Yeah, while this is happening, when Jordan knocks out the doctor and the security guard that's watching her, and knocks her out. I mean, she used the gun that she took from Tom's house and shoots one of the security guard in the leg and demands the special identity card from the doctor. Yeah. And she ties them up and she heads down dressed in doctor's uniform and all that stuff.
Yeah, put his jacket on and stuff. Yeah, make it look like a doctor.
While Lincoln is going about shutting down the hologram, whatever, she goes and follows the selected clones who are going to the ones
selected going to the island, which aren't going to the island.
Were going to be placed in special special room where it would probably.
I got the impression,
Yeah.
the way that a couple of quick flashes there, they were going to be incinerated or something.
Yeah, it reminds me a
They
little.
were getting ready to turn the ovens on or the jet blast or something rather.
Yeah. It reminds me of the gas chambers in those World War One or World War Two.
World War Two, yeah.
Where the Jews would get gassed and killed that way.
So, okay, moving right along.
Moving right along.
It's not a war movie.
Sorry, guys. So anyway, eventually Jordan runs into Albert, and at first we think he's going to upper hand on her, but luckily enough, he helps her. He helps get the other clones out of the room and survive. While this is happening, Lincoln is trying to close down the hologram, and he gets attacked by the head doctor, and the head doctor is like, you're amazing, whatever number he uses, and Lincoln says, my name is Lincoln, and he starts fighting with the doctor, and it's an interesting fight scene. Eventually, the fan inside the roof starts crumbling and starts destroying the hologram.
What happens is Lincoln started something, an override. He threw a switch something to override the power on the fan, so they started spinning faster and faster, getting to critical point, and the thing started to fall apart. So it starts falling, and then it breaks, and the hologram image, and Lincoln eventually takes the special legs. I'm not sure what kind of gun. I think it was a taser, wasn't it?
Either a taser or it has those special rope things.
Yeah,
hook
and hook in somewhere.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It might be a hooky gun.
Yeah, I'll just call it a hooky gun. And he ends up shooting it into the doctor's neck.
Yeah,
and eventually they're both hanging on the sort of a bit of a bridge, a walkway, and the doctor is dead, and Lincoln survives.
Yay.
And while this is happening, the clones look out and see, instead of the island, we see the facility.
The desert, inside the facility, yeah.
And now the owner's dead. The staff can't control the clones anymore, so they end up heading out to outside eventually.
And they're so happy to see desert.
Well, I'm not sure if they're happy. They're just probably surprised.
Where's your island? It sank. There you go.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions there when you think about it.
Don't worry, Lincoln and Jordan would have educated them eventually.
Eventually.
And maybe Albert.
They head outside and they kiss, and they look over at Albert, and Albert is smiling. Like he's finally felt like he's achieved something, like did the right thing.
Achieved something positive, yes.
Yes, instead of for money. Which Mike was just saying something interesting.
Did he get paid? Because when he was talking to Dr. Merrick, he said, okay, you done your job, go get your check. Yeah. And shortly thereafter, all hell broke loose. So I'm just wondering whether he actually got paid for his running around and doing all the stuff and everything.
Yeah. Or whether he was going to get his check before the hell broke.
Yeah, and then you get your check, you get cash straight away before they freeze the bank accounts.
Yeah. Now, Then later on, we see Lincoln and Jordan on the boat, and they're heading towards an island. I don't know which island, doesn't matter. And they're happy.
Well,
the end.
They discovered freedom and sex all in the same couple of days. What more could you want?
I don't know.
And if he figured out the money bit, he might be financially independent.
Yeah, that's true.
He never have to work again. He got an ID. He's taken Tom's ID.
Yes, just true.
Well, there you go, guys. What a nice little story that is, hey?
I gotta admit, it's an interesting story. And Mike here was... he was actually looking at some cloning things.
Look, cloning... I had look. They haven't cloned human beings yet. And I certainly hope they don't. Because it could end up like this movie. However, they've been experimenting with dogs and cats and frogs and cows and sheep and whatever. And it works. Now, I can understand the use of it, say, if you've got a species of animal which is becoming extinct, like in Australia, the koala bears, they're not going really good at the moment, and other countries might have the same thing. I think they're really good if you're looking for taking care of species that are dying out. Or, on the other side of the coin, if you've got cattle and you want to breed better cattle or more cattle, you might be able to clone them faster than doing the other. I don't know. There might be a way it can actually be used, but the moral dilemma of got into human beings could end up pretty much like this movie.
Yeah.
And that'd be a bit scary.
Yeah, I mean, good point, Mike. I mean, considering they probably can do the cloning, but there's a big question of what's in it for the government for doing it?
No,
I mean, what would they get out of cloning?
Well, look, I'll put it to you another way. Okay, let us say we had massive deforestation of the world. Well, the trees and everything do photosynthesis and do oxygen. They purify the air. Now, if we really had to get the plants back on deck again, we'd have to clone. You can do manual cloning. You can take cuttings and stuff and clone. Now, to do other things, you might need to take cells and rebuild things and maybe try to make a new genus of plant which might be more robust.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you can muck around with DNA and go in there and create these things and plant them and save the world.
Yeah, I was just meaning that so I remember this conversation a while back where a person was questioning cloning, and it was in a video game, Jurassic Park, the video game, and one of the characters wanted to make it into a sort of a sanctuary for the dinosaurs, but but for some reason InGen didn't agree with this because there's no money in it.
Exactly.
Considering it would, I mean, it's just like what I said before. I mean, if we made clones, what would possess the government to fund it?
Why would they fund it? Exactly right.
I mean, what would they use the clones for aside from repopulating the possibly a few animals or a few plant life?
Exactly. Now,
I mean, consider it. Just think about it.
Let's get about the moral dilemmas and the theology and the...
Yeah, I know this runs a little deeper than what we usually do.
Otherwise, we could talk about it all night.
But there is a lot of deep, meaningful things to say about the island when you think about it. And about the cloning side.
Anyway, here we go. I haven't got too much in the way of production notes. I couldn't find any. Okay, now, however, there were some ruined buildings where Lincoln and Jordan took refuge when they first got out of the facility.
Nice.
And now that's a place called Rhyolite, Nevada. There's some old buildings there. So they did some filming in that area. The city parts were actually done in Detroit, Michigan.
Ooh, cool.
With the Michigan Central Station as one of the locations where did some filming. Other ports were done in Coachella, Valley in California. So that's where the main filming parts were done. Now, getting back onto... I was talking about product placement to Sarah the other day. I didn't see a lot of product placements in this movie.
Actually, there is one.
No.
The Xbox.
What I was going to say, there might have been an Xbox, it might have been an Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. It wasn't a lot. It's like Coca-Cola machine in the corner, that sort of stuff, But there's one thing that came up here. There's one of those computer screens, a big desk computer screen, touch screen. Had something like it in Tron, and this one here, and it said it was a large version of a Microsoft Pixel Sense computer.
Cool.
So, and they look so much fun to play with. I wish I had one, but they're probably expensive.
Yeah, I saw one in Harvey Norman, and it was not, and the price tag was not really my league.
Yeah, so they're very expensive. But if it gets to the stage where you get a nice glass tabletop for a desk and have your computer running through it, now I don't know about you. My neck hurts looking straight onto the computer for too long.
Yeah.
Being hunched over a computer doing work, I think my neck would hurt more.
I would think so too.
But it still looks good.
It looks good if you were... I don't know. It would feel uncomfortable when you think about it.
But a big touchscreen, you get that mounted on a wall. Now, that'd be right up my alley. But this big screen about the size of a really large screen TV, all touchscreen, drag things around with your fingers, ring up a keyboard, go... and type it. It'd be marvellous. Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time getting a special mouse pad that allows you to draw, but I still didn't feel comfortable drawing with it because it feels strange and
Yeah,
not so.
I think it was called Light Pen or something, whatever. Yeah. Anyway,
I just wasn't familiar with it.
anyway,
Although I probably would one day give it. I might even one day buy one for my niece or nephew one
and
day.
they can muck around.
But
Next generation.
Again, I'll
Yeah.
wait until they get to a level when they can draw.
Hey, they do draw.
I mean, when if they want to take
My little
that drawing to the
guys-
next level.
My little guys were really good. Actually good on computers. I got 2 desktop computers here. When
Yeah.
the little kids come down, I got a little 4-year-old on one of the desktops and 6-year-old on the other one. And the 4-year-old is telling the 6-year-old how to use the computer.
Clever, isn't it, fellas?
Once he finds the right logos to click on, he goes now. He teaches her how to play the games. So he's smart. He's pretty up there. Anyway,
yeah, if you might become an IT person or
a waste of space in the computer game parlors or on the computer all the time playing games.
let's just hope he uses those talents for something.
Use those power for good. Yeah,
Let's just hope something interesting
Okay.
other than video games.
Now, okay.
Go on.
I won't go into the reviews too much because they're all pretty much saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Average. Now, it's not because of anything bad about the movie per se. It's got a pretty good storyline.
Yeah.
But the special effects, the continuing, all the good stuff to say, everything's great. However, the general consensus is, Rotten Tomatoes says, this clone movie is a clone of THX 1138, Coma, and Logan's Run. I can think of several other movies. Clonus, the Clonus Horror, Future World. It's got the same sort of theme rolling through this movie. So yeah, it's not fresh. That was a problem. They also said things like there's more interest in explosions and chasings and working on the dialogue and plot.
I thought it was an interesting story.
No, it's good, but they could have made it a bit more interesting, a little bit less action, and a little bit more plot and stuff to make it more. I mean, you can't just have action with a lame story behind it. The story could have been a little bit meatier. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Metacritic didn't like it that much. They got no comments.
Was there any positive comments?
No, there's all mediocre to bad. They're just saying it was lame because it's not a fresh idea, or they concentrated too much on the special effects and the action stuff and actually developing the storyline. Pretty much, that's pretty much what it's all about. Having said that, it still made a profit at the theatres. It made something like what I say before. The box office grossed 163 mil.
Yeah.
But they spent 126 making it.
Yeah.
And what happens if it didn't make 163 mil?
That's a good
It would have
question.
lost a shitload of money.
Would you not swear?
Oh, that wasn't shit's on a swear word, is it? No.
Yeah, but you, niece and
Okay,
nephew might be on
kiddies,
there.
don't say what I say. Just do what I do. I tell you to do. Don't swear.
And they might take us off the air if you swear.
Oh, they won't. Now, no, that's not swear. I can get some swear words to take us off the air right now.
Hey,
and all we
don't
aimed
say
at you. Now, here we go. Lawsuit. Copyright infringement lawsuit. This one got on to about being copied. The creators of the 1979 film Parts, the Clonus Horror,
Could have come up with a name.
also brought which was also about a colony that breeds clones to harvest organs for the elite. They filed a copyright infringement suit in 2005, and they won
Yeah.
because it was too much like this story. So obviously the
Yeah.
guy who wrote this story for this might have seen this one and said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can do something like that," and he
Yeah.
wrote it too close to what they had. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you said
Yeah.
before, Mike, when we were beforehand, you said that Clonus one was actually ended in tragedy, unlike
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Island one, which ended
Well,
in triumph.
they lived happily ever after, where the Clonus one, no, they didn't live happily ever after, no.
And there's no assuming that
Yeah.
they'll continue doing this until
Yeah.
people. Well,
Yeah, we were hoping there's going to be like the end of the tunnel at the Clonus one, but it gives you room for food for thought at the end of it when it says, "Oh well, the good guy, the good clone's dead," and there's some news reporter guy who was his sponsor may be going to tell the world about it, and that's where it's finished. So let you start made you start thinking, well, what's he going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
That left it hanging nicely.
Yeah.
But now, anyway, I'm not going to go on it too much. Now, availability. For those of you who want to explore this movie, Amazon has plenty for sale or rent. eBay has plenty for sale. However, I did notice there is another movie out there, a recent one, called The Island. Make sure you get the right one. This has Ewan McGregor in it. And it was 2005. I think the other ones might have been made about the same time. Different movie. Just look into it when you buy it.
Just look, put down sci-fi, considering this seems like a sci-fi
but if you go
when you
on
think about it.
Amazon or somewhere, you put the name of the movie, and it's going to bring up all these images and all these listings of the Island movie.
Yeah, that's another thing about this movie. Unlike the Clonus one, which is more of a horror thriller type one, and a bit of science fiction thrown in for measure.
Clones was a sci-fi horror, I think.
Yeah,
where this one's a thriller as well.
This one was more just a sci-fi
action.
Yeah, which made it. I think the action and sci-fi bit was. I think it was well balanced.
The movie works, but like I said, there's some things could have been done better. A little bit more action, a little bit more story development, maybe. Yeah, but I mean, you've got clones of no history. You can't do character development.
No, of course not.
But he could have done a bit more about their time inside the facility.
Yeah.
Because the first, I think, 20 minutes or so of the movie, they were inside the facility, or 25 minutes, and the rest of it, they were outside the facility. So you didn't get too much of a feel of what actually went inside the facility. He had a few questions here and there. But
which is what
they could have developed a bit more on the inside.
Which Lincoln was, who's the protagonist, was questioning his whole world.
Yeah, and we didn't see that world. We could have got more of it.
Yeah, we only got a glimmer of it. Like they controlled everything about them. You know, controlled their dietary needs, their health, their fitness, their everything. To make sure that they're all ready for their sponsors.
I mean, there's a book, I think, I'm stretching my brain here, going back for years. I think there's a book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, I think. I think it was the writer. And that had the same sort of thing. Everyone were living in compounds or buildings, all dressed the same, or they were eating the same food. And they used, I think, they had total cakes. They had something like a loaf of bread or something, or a big cake type thing, and all your nutrients were in this cake. So you had this cake thing, that was your food. You didn't have it, you didn't have vegetables or fruit, it was all built into it.
Was this a book or a movie?
Book, yeah. It might have been made in a movie in different ways, and they had some sort of liquid they drank. They didn't have any other thing, just that liquid and that thing called total cake. And everything else was controlled. Yeah. They were allowed to grow and develop. They weren't clones, but it was a totally controlled society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is sort of the same thing. They're in a controlled environment.
Yeah, totally controlled,
and they only promised that they'll get a chance to go into this island, even though the island doesn't exist.
Actually brings another book too, a book called Perfect Day or something or other. That same sort of thing, and they had people living outside, which they knew about, but you weren't supposed to see them, and everybody else lived in a controlled environment with all the good groovy things.
Yeah, despite the major similarities from other pictures like Logan's Run, THX, and all the other ones you mentioned, I think at least they released it at the right time when I think about it. If it was too close like those ones, then we'll have a bit of a milking out thing going there.
But the point is, it still could have done. You look at things like Star Wars and stuff.
Yeah.
They did something fresh.
They did.
This guy didn't do it fresh. They rehashed another movie.
Yeah, that's another thing that's been on my head. I mean, I know that this was they may have taken the same storyline, but it got me thinking. What if they just were sitting in the studio one day and just came up with the idea, how about a story about cloning and organ transferring and all that stuff? It'd make a good story.
When it goes to the court of law, they look at both film scripts, both storylines, and they read them.
I know.
If it's too close, it's a rip-off.
I know. I'm just thinking...
No. You can't just, I'll make up my own one and it's going to look like that one over there which I haven't read.
Yeah.
No.
It's just a thought that maybe subconsciously
the guy's seen it. He's read it.
He's probably went to school, studied
He might have
filmmaking.
seen the movie, he might have read the book, and it's in the back of his head, and 20 years later he's written a book again. And subconsciously he probably never thought he did anything wrong. Well, that's right.
Like,
but the point is, he did. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's the whole point.
Like some people, I know this friend who was accused of plagiarism, whatever, and actually she didn't do anything wrong.
That's okay.
And I told her this myself, and I told her that you didn't do anything wrong, and she went to her lawyer, and they found there was nothing wrong with her story in the end.
Now, this is getting well into overtime now.
Okay, let's do our rating for this production.
Look, because it's a really, 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 really good movie insofar as the camera work, directorship, whatever, blah, blah, sets, everything's great. But I'm going to knock one half off it because of the storyline could have been a bit fresher. And I think it just got the same title thing and put it into the story and tried to make it fresh, but it's actually been done at least half dozen times before. Like Future World was similar. The Clonus Horror. There's other movies out there in books. It wasn't a fresh idea. And if it's going to take something like this, a theme, make a fresh story around the theme.
Yeah, but I think I remember one person told me one time, I think it was in Tolkien, the movie, where he says, this teacher was telling him that Tolkien was telling his teacher that he stolen a few ideas for his language, but he miscorrected him, saying, you got inspired. It's not the same thing as stealing someone's work.
We are great in this. Okay,
but I often think that maybe some people out there mistake plagiarism with inspiration when you think about it. I just think that's probably what people mistake when they think about this.
Inspired is not the same as stealing. Now, 8.5. And what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. I do like certain things about it. I like it.
I like Ewan McGregor and I like Scarlett Johansson, whatever. And I like Sean Bean. The actors are great. They did a good job with the script.
And I do feel like there was a bit of character development. And
it was as much as they could for a clone.
I mean, considering this is coming from a person who's never lived outside the facility, and they have to learn from example or not example.
But they could have developed them inside the facility by making that part of the movie longer and the other bit a bit shorter.
True.
Yeah, that's what. So they could have made some character development for their 3 to 4 years in the facility.
And despite those other movies that said that similar storylines, what else would you put into a story? Like he tries to escape, he tries to understand the real world outside the facility.
He became aware.
He starts
done.
He starts thinking independently.
Logan did that in Logan's Run. He became aware of what do you call it? Sanctuary.
Realizing
and he went looking for it.
Yeah. Like we said before, there's a lot of key elements in this movie, like with the island in the movie, like their only hope is the island per se,
and the hope it was a fake hope.
And Logan's was dealt with a fictional sanctuary
which didn't exist,
and I don't know what THX's key element.
Well, they were stuck inside a facility, and there was an outside world that they didn't know existed.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, what the other stuff is. I mean, I know that the Clonus one dabbled with that these people hope to go to America, which was
they called it America, but
which unaware they probably weren't aware that they were in America for all I know.
Yeah, they were. They're in the facility. You're going to go to America. Oh wow, all the good groovy things. And but they could have called it Brazil. They could have called it England. They could have anything. But they just used the word America.
There's a lot of key elements like giving the
up?
clones hope that they'll go to a better place. Only in this case, a better place is going to heaven.
Well, Well, it was the point. If they don't have spirits, souls, they would go anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's what the doctor thought. He thought that they
Yeah.
would just kill them off, no harm done. But I think that,
Just like cattle.
I think that's why he kept it all secret, because he didn't want his sponsors to find out that he's actually raising clones and killing them for their organs.
Exactly.
And
Can we wrap up? It's getting really overdue now.
And as Max said in the story, he's breaking several laws, including manslaughter.
Lots of laws. Yeah, manslaughter, yeah.
I think it's manslaughter or murder.
Like even if you're breeding animals, you've got rules to comply with. He's breeding human beings. You think you have a few more groovy things you have to, laws-wise, to protect your property.
Yeah, and once the word got out, I guess that would destroy him, even though he's dead. So technically, he's already destroyed.
Oh, bugger. Anyway, we have to wrap it up.
Okay. So that's about it for us tonight. You can get it on Amazon or eBay.
and or other places which you can buy it from. I only check those two. If it's there, it should get in other places too.
Yeah.
So
So feel free to check it out, guys. And as Mike said before, be sure to get the right one. Remember to put in the actual characters' names.
Well, no, when you put the name in and the year, it'll give you a whole list. There won't even be, some of the other ones will come up there because they won't have a year on it.
Yeah.
But as long as you got Ewan McGregor in it and Scarlett Johansson in it, you got the right one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the covers are different with different countries. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just be careful. So Anyway, it's like getting an old movie. Sometimes you get those big laser discs, you get VHS tapes and beta tapes. You got to be careful when you get into stuff.
Yeah, it seems that more and more movies these days, they would often use the same title, and it leads to all manner of confusion.
I'm confused.
And it leaves us wondering how we're going to find this film when it's giving us mixed signals, when you think about it.
Actually, they mentioned another movie that was like it too, Fahrenheit 451.
That one.
That was a controlled environment.
Yeah.
Everything was, you get all your information through television, what they wanted to tell you. It doesn't. I don't think it had newspapers. They weren't allowed to read.
No, I think they had comic book style type newspapers without words, obviously.
Yeah. Well, they wanted, imagery and that sort of stuff. And they knew how to read for basic stuff they needed to read, but apart from that, they weren't encouraged to read anything, and all the books were destroyed.
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole message in this movie. They're in a controlled environment.
Very much so, yeah.
That's all, controlled by the government or by the higher people up, anyway.
But have a think, folks. Are we in it now? Are we in a controlled environment? Are we only getting the news that they want us to hear and see? Are we reading the stuff in the newspapers they only want to see? How much is going on behind closed doors we don't know about? It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does make you think. I mean, ever since the COVID hit, guys, and it got me thinking about how much the media is telling us the right information. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm not going to turn this to a debate about this. So
we're not doing a 2-hour podcast. Okay?
So thanks for listening to our latest podcast, everyone. So feel free to watch the movie and give us your feedback on what you feel about it.
I think it's a good movie.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to our podcast, and we'll see you guys for our next one. Bye for now.
Bye.